Well, that absolutely sucked. The first half of the Saints-Commanders game has come to a close. Saints trailing 14-0. They have just 2 first downs. Let's talk about all it right here on our halftime show powered by 4D. I'm Chris Vogel of the Straight Up Saints podcast. As always, reminding you guys, if you like our content, make sure you hit the like button. We greatly appreciate it. Also, leave your comments in. I'll get to them in just a couple of minutes. I'll get through some of my notes early on from this first half. Let's start off with the obvious. Jake Haener's been horrendous, and it's almost kind of reached the point where I question if he's an NFL quarterback. Like, I just don't see it. I don't see a guy that can make, the spectacular throws. But more importantly, the one thing I thought Jake Haener would be able to do at least decent is just take what the defense gives you. And yet today, he has not taken what the defense has given them. And I think the interception that he had was the just total issue, right? You have a drop the play before. That's tough. I get that. You got to be able to move on to the next play, though. The next play, if it's not there, live to see another down. Instead, he chucks the ball deep, gets intercepted. It was an ugly interception. It had no chance. But yeah, the offense has been horrendous. If you just look at the numbers right now, he's 4 of 10 for 49 passing yards. So he's not getting the job done, obviously. Both quarterbacks have been sacked an insane amount of times. There's 8 sacks already in this game. We still have another half of football left to play. So Jake Haener, he's been horrendous. I'm not exactly breaking any boundaries with that take. I think everyone would agree that he's been horrible. Offensive line. This offensive line has regressed terribly. Now, to some extent, it doesn't help that Jake Haener's taken about a 17-step drop back every throw, but the offensive line for the last couple of weeks has been bad. Think about the Rams game. They were able to kind of impose their will late in the game. Think of last week against the Giants. Against the Giants team without Dexter Lawrence, they struggled to hold up that front. And then you have today against the Commanders where your offensive line looks terrible. So that's been a problem. The defense, to me, yeah, they're making some plays because this Washington scheme isn't great. Cliff Kingsbury's pretty much saying, let's call a bunch of option plays and then hope Jaden Daniels bails us out. And more times than not, Jaden does, because Jaden's a hell of a talent. But the Saints, when there's plays to be made, they haven't done it. And this secondary is learning today, and obviously this isn't exactly a new take, that Terry McLaurin's one of the best in the business. He's been a problem, regardless of which cornerback's been matched up against him. So that obviously isn't ideal. But the main takeaway is the offense, right? This does not look like an NFL offense. I don't even know where they turn to from here. This is disgusting. Now, I did say, I think the Saints for this game should start Jake Haener. And I said, if it goes terrible, better not see the field the rest of the season. Now, when I initially made that take, it was my thought that you could just play Rattler next week against Green Bay and then let him play the final 2 games, Raiders, Bucks. I wonder if you just make the change at halftime. Not to say Rattler is some special quarterback. He struggled like crazy too. But this is bad. Like, this is a product, just like I felt in the first half of the Saints-Chargers game when Rattler got benched, where you have to make a change. So what's fair is fair. Haener's been horrendous. I'd probably go to Rattler when this second half starts. I don't know if the Saints will do that, but I don't know how you could trot out this product for the next 30 minutes at the Superdome. Passing game looks horrendous. Quarterback doesn't look good. He looks timid. Offensive line has been atrocious. So a bunch of problems for a team that, frankly, isn't very good. So I'll get into all your comments. Before I do that, I want to get a quick word from Theo's Pizza.
Scan the code now and tackle your hunger with Theo's Pizza, your neighborhood pizza with 5 convenient locations. Who dat? Your taste buds are about to find out.
Thanks to Theo's Pizza for being part of the program. We're going to get to your comments here on our halftime show real quick and start off with John saying we still have a chance at the playoffs. We just need to win this game, win the rest of the games, have the Falcons lose out, have the Buccaneers lose out, have Saturn be in retrograde, and pray. In all seriousness, if almost getting sacks got to the Super Bowl, we'd be a goddamn dynasty. Back then, sure. Even now, though, it's like a small problem to the big problem, which is this team is not very good. Coaching staff needs to be overhauled. Front office is not good enough. Roster is bad. This is a bad roster. So many problems. But I get your point, though, and I do agree. Last couple years, it has felt that way. Forgive says I was rooting for Jake, but he's a deer in headlights right now and isn't confident at all. They need to get him out of there. Yeah, I would imagine at some point you got to pull the trigger in the second half and do something else. I don't know how you go into the second half with this offense. They have 2 first downs. And the second first down, Dante Pettis clearly flinched. That should have been a false start. They don't call it, and he picks up the first down. So you got 2 first downs. Total yards, you got 38. Just not great. Player says, how the fuck is Cesar Ruiz still this bad? Pardon my language. You don't have to apologize for your language at all. Cesar Ruiz is an absolute train wreck who's had 1 solid football season with the Saints, and outside of that solid football season has been a really, really bad player. Forgive says the right side of this O-line is complete garbage. really hoping we find Ruiz's replacement. Yeah, that's a huge problem, right? It's always one step forward, two steps back with the Saints. You'll be like, oh, Fuaga's great, but you got this problem. Oh, Penning's making some progress. Ruiz has been atrocious. Penning obviously hasn't been that great either the last couple of weeks, but right side's been an issue. I'm more concerned with Cesar Ruiz. I think he's the big problem. Dwayne says rebuild time. Denzel says get that pick. Sam says put Rattler in. I'd imagine that'll be like the consensus for Saints fans right now. It's tough to say I want another half of Jake Ainer, right? This is really bad. Margaret says, what's going on with his O-line? They suck. I agree, Margaret. It has not been a good unit last couple of weeks. Cody says it's safe to start looking at draft picks now. I'd say so. I think it was safe to start looking at draft picks last week. The only reason they beat the Giants is because the Giants are the worst team in the league. Any other team the Saints played with that effort last week, they would have lost that game too. Isaiah says, please Rat, save us. D23 says, Ruiz acts as though he's never seen a stunt before. Dude is constantly surprised that a D lineman is running past him. It is kind of amateur hour when it comes to him. Mr. Don says Jake Haener is not an NFL quarterback. After today's performance, I'd fucking agree with you, man. This is rough. Max says, man, this is tough for sure. Saints 41 says Jake and the offense look like shit. The end. Yeah, I see a lot of people arguing on Twitter like, oh, you wanted this guy, you wanted that guy. First off, Saints fans are not in charge of the personnel, so let's just wipe that one out completely. And then the second thing for this team is they're all bad. You want to argue for logistics reasons and what makes you as a fan happier? Let's go for it. If Rattler's going to throw one or two passes that are going to look awesome and the rest is crap, look, that's two passes better than Jake Haener. So I get that. I totally get that. At the end of the day, we're all watching shit. This is a bad football team. I don't care that they're 5-8. They play like they're 2-10. And I know that there's a reason to be frustrated with today, and I get it because this is disgusting. But I don't know who's saving this team. I just don't see it. Half-Life says, I just want a fun game. It's definitely not it. Yep. Goonie 300 says Jake's going to throw a pick six. He's flirting with it. Isaiah says Jake interview had me fooled. I mean, yeah, handled the media well, talked about letting it rip. Only thing he's ripping his ass right now because this is not a good performance at all. Fresno State legend. Sean says, please end the Jake experiment. I'd imagine after today it's done. But who the fuck knows? Cam says, I love it when the team plays. Oh, I'm not reading that one. Dwayne says, Jake to Marshawn for a pick six. I'm calling it. I could see it. Although, if you're Washington, do you kind of ease the brakes on Marshawn, kind of load manage him in the second half? Sean says, I'm totally checked out. I would imagine a lot of Saints fans are. Can't really blame them. Max says, our O-line, his cheeks, our receivers are practice squad guys, and Haener's holding the ball too long and too slow to pull the trigger. We'll be lucky to lose by less than 20. Honestly, if Washington's offense wasn't, amateur hour as well, Saints probably would be losing by 20 plus. But like I said before, Cliff Kingsbury's running a bunch of option plays and then hoping that Jaden Daniels bails him out. And Jaden Daniels is awesome. Awesome. He's made some great throws today. But that is not a great scheme, and that's probably the only thing keeping the Saints in the game right now. D23 says just woeful in every single offensive facet. 1,000%. Hudat says, let's see how bad he looks in the second half. He's been bad. Or let's see how he looks in the second half. He's been bad. I can't see it magically changing, but who knows? Margaret says Rattler's just as bad as Haener. I think there's more upside with Rattler. I don't think either guy's going to be the answer long-term, though. That'd be my guess. Mr. Don says this game reminds me of when we started Ian Book a few years ago. It's that bad. I agree. It's got the same feel to it. There's no question about it. Dwayne said Clint is proving he's a fraud as well as the OC. I don't think Clint's a good OC. I've kind of felt this way the last couple of weeks, maybe the last couple of months. Doesn't really adjust well. Saints don't really have an identity right now. Once you take away his run game, he's fucked anyway. So I don't know. I'm not really loving the Clint Kubiak experiment. Zay says, I don't know what y'all expected today, to be honest. I expected crap, but I was hoping you'd get some garbage time statistics or some semblance of an offense here and there. Getting none. Mr. Don says Rattler's much better than Haener. Shane says, I expect Washington to come out with extra focus on the run game. One more touchdown and this game's over, but it might be over already. Yeah, I agree. I think it's over already. Just call me. Trey says, with any semblance of offense, the Saints could be right in the game. Reese sucks. MVS still can't catch. Tight end still blocking edge rushers, and we have no QB. Defense has done better. Yeah, look, I think defense has been fine. They've struggled on certain plays, and Terry McLaurin's kind of cooked them in the red zone. But it is what it is, right? You're going to live with that. For the most part, the front seven's kind of done their job. And kind of feel for them. They're probably the only ones busting their ass right now. D23 says constant theme for the Saints is getting beat up front. Teams always set the run against us, and we just accept it. There are no dogs in that line. No one leads by example. I had that in my notes actually. It said defense lacks dogs, and I think Brian Brzez's a dog, but he's a pass rusher really, and not a run stuffer. Cameron Jordan's still giving it his all, but he's towards the end of his career. Chase Young's made some nice plays today, but few and far in between. Your biggest problem is the defensive tackles, like not having a run stuffer and just that guy that kind of clogs up the lane. Colin Saunders is in there for cardio, like that's the truth. So, I mean, it sucks, but that's the reality here. Max says second half predictions, a hot take ? Hot take, Saints actually score a fucking touchdown at some point. Does that count as a hot take? That's what I'll go with, How long do you think it'll be before we're even considered contenders? I'll finish on this note because, second half's just about to begin. I think it's going to take the Saints probably anywhere between 3 to 5 years to fix this team. And that doesn't even mean they're going to be contenders, to be honest. Like that's just a hope that you fix this team. Like they're bad. They're bad in the trenches. They're bad at quarterback. Not enough receiver depth. No tight ends. Secondary is going to need a lot of work. It's a bad football team that needs a lot of help at so many positions. So I'm going to say 3 to 5 years is my guess. And I hope I'm wrong, but that's kind of the way I'm looking. So we'll see what happens. Second half is going to start. Ted asks QB in draft next year. If so, who? I don't know. We'll have to see what pick they get. Honestly, we'll have to see what pick they get, but I'll definitely have us covered there when we figure out where they'll be selecting. Because I wouldn't mind if they go quarterback, because Lord knows they need something to give us fans a spark. So second half's about to begin between the Commanders and the Saints. We'll see what happens. I don't expect a riveting second half. I expect more of the same crap, but who knows? Maybe they'll surprise us, put some points up on the board and make this a little fun. Don't expect it, but we'll see. Regardless of what happens, we'll have our post-game live stream here at Boot Crew Media, so make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell so you get alerted for that video when it drops, and I'll talk to you guys soon here on the Straight Up Saints podcast, the destination for the Who Dat Nation.